Welcome back to another episode of Earn Your Couch, episode 9. My name is Coleman, and this is my big brother, Jacob, and we've got another guest for you all today. I'm going to let Jacob introduce him.
Yeah, our guest is AJ Trapani. He's a fellow Cal Poly Mustang, lives up in San Francisco, slinging software for Gong. But he's also one of the most influential friends that I've had in my life in terms of connecting with others, finding the joy in the little things. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear our conversation about how to deal with stress, the impact that volunteering at a really impoverished area in Jamaica has had on AJ and his perspective, but also how he's brought that perspective back and kind of found a greater importance on friendships and community here. Good to see you, dude.
So good to be here. I'm fired up. Let's do this thing. I'm curious to know how you guys define EYC and what's like the end goal of a pod like this.
It's actually a great conversation.
We can table that if you want to table that.
Yeah, let's dive into it. I think it's important, obviously, as EYC is new, that our definition also evolves as we grow and figure out. It started off as like a mantra for getting through a hard workout or going to do a workout after a long day of work, and just kind of having the mindset of earn the couch later. Like, I could sit on the couch right after I get off 5 o'clock, or I can go for a run, go see sunset, workout, do something with a friend, and then come back at 7:30 and sit on the couch. And that couch is going to feel much more earned and a lot less, piece of shit, like sitting here. And I think it's just it's something that I can wrap my head around. Like, I don't need to be perfect all the time. I don't need to be 100% dialed. Like, I should be able to watch this TV show. I should be able to watch the game or hang out with friends and not feel like I'm getting behind because I'm relaxing at the end of a hard day. So as long as I lean into my life, show up as the best version of myself at work, work out, take care of my relationships, then the couch can be a place of sanctuary kind of at the end of the day.
Well, and kind of adding to that, Jake and I, as brothers normally do, but Jake and I were on the phone talking like all the time every week, once a week, having at least a hour and a half conversation, talking about football, talking about stuff we're doing in life, talking about what we want to like try and accomplish for the year. And one of the conversations I was having with him was, I really need to get back into a really solid fitness routine, because I struggled big time with trying to balance work and my own like personal mental and physical health. And I was prioritizing work so much that I was finding myself struggling finding the time to go work out, when in reality, I just needed that excuse or reason to go do it. I was giving myself too many excuses to not do it. And so Jake and I were having this conversation, and then it got to the point where I'm all, dude, we should just start a podcast and just start filming these conversations so that over time we can see our growth and the conversations we had, the things we were struggling with, because 5 years from now, we're going to kind of forget what we were going through at a certain point in time. And then that's kind of where Jake brought up the EYC mentality. And that's kind of where I was like, dude, that'd be a fucking great name for a podcast. So here we are.
Love that. Yeah. It's relatable too. Like what y'all just described are things that all of us are trying to accomplish, right? That makes sense. That's cool.
How do you relate to it?
Well, I relate to it because I think that at least our like friend group, Jake, is very similar in the sense that we all want to become the best version of ourselves. And in doing so, enduring pain is a part of that process. And we also like to enjoy ourselves. And to be able to enjoy yourself, aka the couch, it feels a whole lot better if you've had the opportunity to endure pain and improving yourself beforehand. And yeah, Coleman, I think I'm also like always, I mean, there's certain people like in our friend group that's just built different. Tyler just ran a marathon in 2 hours and 50 minutes, sub 6:30 pace. That's something that I will never be able to do. He just has that mentality, and I was there. I was supporting him. I'm a big fan of when our buddies are doing things like that. But you also have to judge yourself. Like, you don't need to judge yourself. Like, it's a competition against yourself, you know? Yeah, for me, it's just like, it's more mental than physical. I just like to get in the gym. I like to get my hard work done first. And the hardest part is starting. Once you've started, it's a lot easier, and it makes the end of the day a lot nicer. So yeah, I relate to a lot of what you guys are saying there.
Did you have a time post college where you struggled getting back into it? Because you said the hardest part is starting. Was that after college? I know you wrestled in high school as well, just like us. So you have that grit mentality already. But did you find yourself struggling at all post college?
Yeah, it feels like it's the I think it's Dan Gable quote, right? Once you wrestle, everything else in life is easier, which I do believe. It's wrestlers are a different mindset. I don't really know when it was hardest. I think, yeah, maybe adjusting to the work world and trying to figure out how to like build a routine around my career was a challenge. But I mean, it comes in waves. Like, I'm a believer that you'll have a routine, and you need to tweak that routine every couple of years. Like, it can't be the exact same. You have to keep trying new things out. Like, I've been through some tough times in my life, and when it's tough, when it's super hard, I try to change something up, whatever it is, in my morning routine, in my after work hours, whatever it might be. Find a new hobby, etc. So it comes in waves, I think, for me at least.
I actually remember we were walking down the street in the marina in SF, and you were kind of going through one of these rough patches, and you were up for a promotion, and you can kind of go like people management, or you could go down the path of bigger deals, bigger customers. And it's like, I really love people, but I also like, do I want to be people management, or do I want to like level up? What's best for my long-term career? Do I want to be in sales long-term? And what's missing? And you're almost finding like, is it in work that I'm missing something, and I'm just like fearful of the future? Or do I need to make a change outside of work that I'm lacking some level of fulfillment? And I remember you talking about not necessarily having a super clear answer from a career perspective, but you felt like you wanted to serve outside of work. And I transitioned this into the Jamaica trip that you just went on, because that conversation happened over a year ago. And then a month ago, you went on this, I feel like you did the thing that you were talking to me about. And so I'm curious, do you remember this conversation?
Yes, very much.
And like how you grappled with that decision making, the fear of, unsure where to go next, because you've obviously stayed with your job and you're continuing to be successful in sales, but you've also found these other areas outside of just career that are bringing a lot to who AJ is.
Yeah. And I think that there's context to that conversation that would be helpful. So I've always sort of had a desire to do more than just like earn and like make money for myself. Like, I try to make meaning, I think, is kind of the goal that I'm starting out to do. And money is like a byproduct of that success, and making meaning as the priority, everything else kind of falls in line. And what I mean by that is, like, I actually remember where this actually all came from. When I was like about 5 years old, my parents came home and had shared with me that we had adopted a little boy named Fruto in Africa. And I was so fired up to be a big brother. I was like, this is awesome. This is all I've ever wanted. This is very exciting. And we would have pictures of Fruto go up on our fridge like every year. And I would like kind of build a relationship with him by just observing his growth and development. Yeah, what I didn't realize at the time is like, I would actually never meet Fruto. Like, Fruto was just an individual that my parents decided to like sponsor, if you will, because this individual didn't have the resources, the money, or the safety to like live on his own and build a life for himself. And so, and it kind of clicked to me where I realized that there are millions and millions of people out there that have like really unfortunate circumstances and that are like Fruto, that need help. And I've just always had a desire to like, even though it's never going to be like entirely solved, like do the best I can to make the world a little bit better, a better of a place. And I also like enjoy the feeling too. Like there's something that has to do with just like watching the expression on people's faces and seeing the impact that you can actually give someone when you go help them out. And so what happened was from that conversation, I actually started this in reverse, but it's called Gong for Good program at my company with a couple other people where we put on like a breast cancer event on a breast cancer awareness day. And now we're doing another event actually next Wednesday. So in like a couple of days from now, where we're working with a prison and we're helping like teach them what it's like to like build a career for themselves and, you know, how to build a resume and things like that. And we're getting like a couple hundred people involved at the company, which is really exciting. But yeah, my solo adventure was Jamaica. So yeah, that was an incredible experience. I just got back there a couple of weeks ago, and that was something I've always wanted to do, where I just like exit the world that I've lived in and go experience something entirely different. And it was everything and anything I ever wanted. So that was a great trip.
Can you give context? Like, I know a little bit more. I know Coleman probably doesn't know nearly as much as I do, but I don't know as much as you do. What was the organization that you went through? Like, what was the goal of the week? Were you helping? I know you're helping like a school out. Like, what are the details of your trip?
Yeah. So, I went out there alone. This program called International Volunteer Headquarters, IVHQ. It's a great program if anyone's interested in doing something similar. It's very well vetted. It's safe. It's a great group of people. Basically, flew out to Jamaica on my own, and I remember like the first day I was like kind of freaking out because I was definitely a minority and I was in like not a very safe area, and I was like really put up with questions of like, why am I doing this? Like, this is like kind of a scary thing to do. Like, and it made me really question my why, which ended up being a really good thing. But then I ended up meeting up with a group of like 3 others. One was actually from Jamaica. And then we stayed at like a host family in this area called outside of Ocho Rios, called Araca Mesa. And it was a super small town, but I basically helped out this local elementary school because all the teachers are like leaving Jamaica and they're super short staffed, so they just need support in any way possible. So I was just like helping teach kids, you know, how to spell words, or there was like some algebra involved for the 6th graders. Yeah, like it was a pretty crazy experience. I also had the opportunity to like give a lecture a couple times for some of the classes on whatever I wanted, which was kind of a cool experience. Led some PE classes and just really like connected with these kids. And my goal was to just learn from them, like understand their life, understand their culture, get to know what makes them happy, because they were the happiest people I've ever been around. And then also like try to see if I can help inspire them in any way I can, which feels like I did. Feels like it was success on both ends. So yeah.
What lessons you said you lectured? You said you lectured whatever you wanted to lecture. What did you teach them?
It was kind of hard to. I had like only like a few minutes before my first lecture, but it was a weird moment. Like, what would you guys do in that situation? Like, you only have like 10 minutes to prepare a lecture for like 3rd graders in Jamaica. I ended up just talking about like San Francisco, California, America. AI came up and they're like, what's this AI thing? And I explained to them a little bit. They've never seen a computer in their lives. So like, how do you explain AI to kids who have never seen a computer in their lives? They're like, I heard cars drive themselves. Like, how does that work? And I'm like,
That's crazy.
A lot of
But
radars.
it was insane. I gave like 3 lectures and each one got better. Like that first one, I was kind of chaotically talking about just random things. And I think the kids kind of got lost, to be honest. They're like, who's this guy telling all these crazy things? And then it got better by each lesson. But yeah, what would you guys say?
I know. I'm trying to think. I'd probably for sure talk about sports.
Like how to like execute like a really good low single, probably.
demonstrating one of the kids. Tell him to get
Yeah.
up.
Come here. Let me show you what a blast double looks like.
Yeah. Or just body slew.
Yeah. No, hit me back. Dude, I don't know. I would probably one of the questions that has been coming up between like Dom and me has been, if you were to start like a unlimited amount of money nonprofit, like what would you solve? And it's got to be within it's got to be possible almost. Like you can't just be like, oh, I just solve hunger, because like there's a lot of like issues. But, like, what would you put your money and effort towards? And one of the things that we've talked about is like this stuff, a school education system that doesn't just focus on, math, science, reading, history, but the stuff that might help people prepare for like actual life. And so, personal finance stuff. Now, I say all this because it would be really challenging to teach, elementary students for one, but people in Jamaica who don't have access to computers to be like, well, why don't you just automate contributions to your Roth to your Roth IRA? Like, that's not going to make any sense. But I think it's like I would probably start to like the little things that I've picked up along the way that have helped me be more happy. I think I would talk about that and how to connect with people, how to teach the kids how to make someone else feel heard. One of my good friends here in San Diego is a teacher, and she talks about how one of her biggest focuses is how she helps her fifth graders learn how to create space for each other to feel heard and seen. And I think that's super challenging, but she says it's one of the most difficult things at the start of the year, but by the end of the year, you start to see them implement these lessons, and the relationships between her students have evolved so much greater. And she's like, I don't really care if they learn anything about the fifth grade math, like I do, but if they're a better person and they know how to treat people better by the time they get out of my class, I think that's what 10 and 11-year-olds need to start learning. So I don't know how I would teach that, like in a 10-minute, like think of a lecture, but I feel like I would try and go down that path. Otherwise, I would just be like, let's do some math. You're going 60 miles an hour down a highway. You're driving for 2 hours. How many miles will you go?
There were some tough math questions. Like, they expected me to know every answer too, just because. And they would like ask me like, what are your multiplication tables? And it's like, what are the sevens? I'm like, oh, I'm not good at sevens. Like, sixes.
7, 14,
They're
21,
asking
28,
you.
35. Next.
Yeah, they're like, you should know every answer, right? I'm like, no, not really.
They're asking you how quickly can you complete one of those 100 question problem multiplication like tables. You know what I'm talking about? The things back in elementary school.
Oh man, they were funny kids. Like this one kid came up to me at the end of my presentation. One kid was like, "Sir, I have a question for you." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you have any Riz?" I was like, "How do you even know what that is?" Like, and this other kid raised his question or raised hand and said, like, how'd you become white?" Is what he asked me.
Wow.
And that hit me. I was like, whoa. And then someone else raised their hand. They were like, yeah, and why do you have blue eyes? And I was just like, I was born that way. That's just how it worked. Like they were like during breaks and lunch, they would take my hands and arms and just analyze my like structure of my veins and the way that like my skin looked, and they were just like tripping. Like they don't see anybody that look not like them. They also had this rule where we weren't allowed to like give any money to the kids, because if you give one kid $1, every kid's gonna ask for $1. And they also said to not like pick up kids and put them on your shoulder, because then every kid's gonna want to be picked up and put on your shoulder unless you're okay with that. I broke both those rules. It was just too hard not to. Like some of the kids would come up to me and be like, "I don't have lunch money. Like I'm starving. Like I need some money." And he would like walk away to go to the bathroom. I like slipped some dollars underneath his book and came home. And I was just like, came back and told him to be quiet or things like that. And I bought pizza for all the kids on Friday, and they thought it was like the coolest thing ever. It was for like 200 kids. It was $150, and it was just like the biggest. It was like the biggest deal, but it was like nothing for in American terms. It was such a crazy like experience overall. I actually got emotional a couple times too. When that kid was asking me about, you know, my skin color and stuff, I had to step away at one point and kind of got emotional. And um, it's just crazy that like these kids are like, they don't have anything. Like they don't have any material. All they have is a community, like a family, and like God. Like they're big believers in like spirituality, so they have hope and they're so happy. Yeah, we live this like an extremely materialistic life where it's all about earning more and buying a bigger house and getting that new jacket. So that was pretty eye opening to me to just realize like simple lives can go a long way. There's a lot of takeaways. It was crazy.
How is it how is it reshaped? I feel like it's easy to maybe witness that and then to come back and be like, I'm going to be less materialistic, you know, I'm going to be more community focused. It's less about, you know, getting more, it's more about peace and serenity. And then maybe when you're back, it's like you get swept back into how everyone else here is approaching life and the things that they care about and the pressures of social media and the influences at work and the desire for yourself to, you have an opportunity to make more out of your own life that maybe other places don't give you that opportunity. And so I'm going to take advantage because other people would take advantage if they were in my position, kind of thing. Like how now that you're a month removed, have you felt that continue that refocus on community over material shifted?
The pressure almost, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but it was a culture shock, of course, going to Jamaica, but it was also a culture shock coming back. Like I came straight back and went to my sales kickoff for my company that I work for at Gong. And like going from that experience I just explained to like, let's go out and go sell a lot more software was like a really trippy experience. But I think what I also took away from Jamaica, which actually helped in that shift back to the way that we operate in America, was the fact that everyone that like most people in Jamaica that were adults were hoping to get out of Jamaica. Like they wanted to go to a country like America where the potential to build a life and to make money is so much higher than Jamaica. Like the best job in Jamaica is like a taxi driver, right? And someone can work so hard in Jamaica and only have like maybe a tenth of the potential that the three of us have in America, right? And so what I realized is am I allowed to swear on this?
Fuck shit. Yeah, go for it.
Right. All the bullshit that we deal with in our daily jobs at work, if our boss is mad at us, or if we have a shitty work-life balance, or we get fired, really, like to the extreme, are all privileges. Like all that shit that we deal with are just means to help us get back on track and reach our full potential, and a potential that only a very few number of people can actually have the opportunity to reach. Like we're so lucky to be able to have a job where we have to work hard and get our ass kicked and like sometimes have really shitty days. Like that's a blessing. So while I'm recognizing that I'm blessed to have like my family, friends, a community, and like that's all you really need for happiness, I also recognize that like building a career for myself is an opportunity that only few people can do. And so I'm going to embrace that while not trying to be too attached to it and making that the center of my attention, if that makes sense.
I love that. There's this expectation that is put on us the moment we are in school you need to be the best of the best. You need to get X results by the time you're age 65 in order to retire. You need to have X amount of friends, play X sport. And when you have all those expectations that are put on you, you almost forget that you're lucky to even have that opportunity to do it. Because I know I've felt pressure to have a specific job in my life that is earning X amount of money, or I felt pressure in my life to go out and do things I don't really want to do, but it's the social norm and everybody else is doing it, so you should be doing it. And I think that's really eye-opening to experience that culture shock, not only in Jamaica, where the curiosity, it sounds like those kids were really curious, which I find maybe kids aren't as curious in the United States anymore with technology that's given to them in their hands right away. But I think that culture shock coming back, that's really interesting. Hopping back on that. So you hop back into work, you flew back in, you hopped into work, you're selling software. What's going through your brain?
Landed a new job at Gong too, so I had to like get accustomed to a new manager and a new opportunity and all that stuff too. But I think like what you said, Coleman, is big. It's shifting that like, oh shit, it's Sunday. I have to go get up tomorrow morning on a Monday and go to work for 5 days. It's changing that I have to I get to. Right? Which is way easier said than done. But like if you just start to like say it, you'll start to believe it, and then you'll start to realize the result of that, like the positive impact of that. So yeah, I challenge you guys to try to do the same thing. Like I get to go get my ass kicked right now, or work super hard, whatever that means. And don't get me wrong, like I want to be successful and build that career because I'm naturally competitive and we all are. But it's not about like the end result. Like the amount of people that I know that have made it, so to speak, that say, that doesn't necessarily build the happiness. Like wealth doesn't build the happiness. Journey, the lessons, and the climb, right? What do you guys think?
It's overcoming challenges, it's learning, it's self-mastery, it's connecting with people along the way. Like, obviously, there's a destination that I'd like to get to in my own life in terms of financial freedom, in terms of time freedom, in terms of being able to support a future family and friends and community in a way that I want to, which has inherent requirements from a financial perspective. But I think I've also realized over the past few years that the things that bring me joy are the little mindset shifts to the get to rather than have to. I get to go to the grocery store and I think it boils down to a frame of mind that's one of gratitude. I get to go to the grocery store. I'm grateful that I have a grocery store down the street from me that is available, that I have the funds to be able to walk in and not really have concerns over how much things cost. Obviously, I'm pissed about the eggs right now. $10 for a dozen is ridiculous.
I'll bring up the eggs right now.
But yeah, it's the idea that progress is the expectation, and I understand that if I'm doing the things on a daily basis, that I'm showing up as the best version of myself as often as I can. I'm attacking problems with a growth mindset. I'm putting in the reps and taking the action to actually get the learning and to do the damn thing, that the result will take care of itself. I think so many people, including myself, a lot of the time, especially with social media, the focus is on the end result. And when the focus is on the end result, you're essentially creating a contract with yourself that you're unhappy until you achieve that thing. Whereas if you get to go to the grocery store, or you get to go to work, or another one is that the pressure that is on you with a new job, a new manager, a higher up role, like that pressure is a privilege. Like that pressure is what's going to make you get to the level that you ultimately want in terms of financial freedom, and understanding that my hard days are challenging, but this is what I'm signing up for to get the things that I want. And I'm going to enjoy the challenge because
Exactly.
I like to think about it like if you walk into like a calculus class, your first day in like senior year of high school, and someone just gives you a calculus test and you're like, ace it. Like, why what? What do you mean? Like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. It's like, right, you gotta put in the reps. You got to go to class. You got to do the homework. And then eventually you're going to look at that same test a month later and be like, I actually know how to do some of this stuff now.
100%. I actually haven't read this book, full disclosure, but my old manager told me about this book. Bill Walsh, who you guys know who that is, but legend NFL football coach. He has a book called The Score Takes Care of Itself, which I just love the idea of like, put it all out on the field and then whatever happens, and accept that outcome and remove yourself from that outcome when you're in the process of doing it. Like, it would almost be interesting if we tried some sort of like experiment where athletes didn't know the score during a game of some sport. That'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Playing into the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. You have the ball.
Right.
Do you
If you
kick
want-
it away? 4th and 2.
Anything that be. But yeah, no, I think the way that all ties back is like not making the end result the focus, building wealth for yourself, like making it. And that's why my focus has been all about like the meaning portion of like doing good for other people and trying to like impact others. And then in that process, like doing the best I can in whatever task I'm given, the squirrel will take care of itself. So.
I mean, yeah, because if you're doing the best that you can at that thing, like you're showing up, you're giving it the effort, you're using the tools and the experience that you currently have. If you have questions, you're asking a question. If there's something that you can look up, you look up, and you do the best. But there's so many outside variables in so many things that matter that all you can do is control what you can control.
Who gives a fuck about how it ends? That's all you got. That's all you do. That's all you have to do.
That's all you can do.
That's it. Not rocket science.
I think it's so freeing too,
Oh
to
my
not
God.
be like, of course you want things to work out. You want things to be successful, but like in the failures, looking back, failures I gain more from than the successes. But in the moment it blows. But once you have the retroactive like analysis, you're like, oh, so no matter what happens, if it's successful, it's great. If it doesn't work out, then it also turns out great.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing that a lot of my colleagues will tell you about me. They're like, it doesn't stress. Like it's end of quarter, it's end of year. Like people are freaking out, and like for some reason, I'm like talking to y'all like I'm talking to you now. And trust me, like I don't have this mastered at all. Like this is an ongoing thing I'm working on, but I'm intentionally doing that because like stressing doesn't help. Like it doesn't. There's nothing you can do that. Outside of doing your best, there is nothing else you can do. So, like, why worry about how it's going to end? One thing I did tell the Jamaican kids actually was, and I don't think they really understood this, but I was trying to let this one sink in. Life is 10% like what happens to you and 90% how you respond, right? Like you get dealt cards and things happen in your life, and while that 10 and 90% might, be plus or minus whatever percent, it's like roughly true where like do what we can with what we're given, and the rest will follow. That was also after I told him the Hubert, your stove analogy, and they were super confused because I gave them like 25% of all of this is your life.
They didn't know what a stove was.
Like, what percent
Partners?
of your life? You're like, family. I was like, shit. Yeah.
Interesting. I kind of
It
want to
is-
go back a little bit back to just AJ, and I know Jacob, you guys are really good at not being stressed, which is something really not a lot of people are good at, including myself.
Coleman's
I'm-
really bad at it.
I suck at managing stress. But that's also okay. I'm getting a lot better at it though, and I get to get a lot better at it. I have been intentionally trying to improve my way of handling stress, decreasing it overall, and it's been working out consistently has been really good. Journaling has been really good. Therapy has been really good. And reasoning behind this, AJ, I don't even know if you probably don't even know, but a couple of years ago, I got shingles. In I forget what year it was. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. I got shingles, and I told the doctor, I'm like, there's no way it's shingles. Like I'm
Hey,
21. I can't get
yeah,
that.
Cole, tell Trap the stats on shingles.
The stats?
It's like 99% of cases are for people like over 75. It's not. That's
80
not that's not the actual stat, but it's something crazy like that.
Short story short, I told the doctor, I'm like, there's no way I have shingles. I'm 21 or something like that. I was in my early 20s, right? And she was
Sure.
like, no, it's definitely shingles. She points to the book, and I'm all,
Coleman, you're getting old, man. What can you say?
no. But then I go, okay, well then, how did I get it? Tell me. She goes, well, have you been stressed? And I go,
What's that?
Literally all the time.
it's
Never
actually
heard of it.
really bad. Yeah, I'm really stressed. But ever since then, I realized, okay, maybe I have a problem with stress. So, been trying to work on it, still consistently working on it, still consistently trying to do what you guys said and remove myself from the equation when it comes to like success and failures that happen. And more so be able to remove myself, be able to look at myself like being outside of my body almost and being like, okay, how did this affect me? How can I learn from it? Right? From like that point of view. I've definitely gotten better, but like, have you guys always felt this way? Or was there a moment in time where you just decided to make that switch and start intentionally getting better? Because for me, it has to be consistent awareness of it and intentional awareness for me to like de-stress, not just be chill all the time, if that makes sense.
You should go to Jamaica. I'm not kidding. Those people are the chillest. They love smoking weed. They love Bob Marley. They're like, just no worries, man. All good, man. Yeah, man. It's like it's the best, dude. You would chill out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to Jamaica. I've hiked up a waterfall in Jamaica, actually. We were down there, 2015 or something, a while ago, 10 years ago. Holy cow.
Are you like in a nice hotel though, and like you got the
Been a
whole
decade. We might have been on a cruise.
hotel?
We might have been on a cruise ship.
Yeah, we were there for like like a day
So
because
that's the thing, dude. Like you can go to so many places and just go get a sick hotel and like hang out by the beach. You're like, oh, yo, that country was sick.
And not see it.
Like you don't actually see it, you know.
Yeah.
So you should
No, we
actually.
don't.
so you're saying even not in the fancy hotels, people are chilling there?
I mean, dude, you can find people chilling anywhere.
For sure. Especially
But
down here in
it's
San
like-
Diego.
Sometimes you just chill way too hard, and you're like, damn, dude, this is pretty chill.
But I guess I'll answer the question, Cole. I am curious, Trap, if you are like actively aware of when you are stressed and then how you respond to it. Because one, I think my baseline for like what gets me stressed is, I guess my threshold for what gets me stressed is a lot higher. I feel like I have a lot of, I don't know if it's always been this way, but I do have a confidence in it's going to get figured out. It'll get taken care of. When things get added to my plate, it's like, all right, how am I going to squeeze this into my calendar? And then it's like taking action to like rearrange my literal calendar time blocks and fixing it. Other people will, like a customer, client, something will come up and like people are freaking out. And then one of the things that I really do is like, what's in my control? And if there are things that are like blatantly out of my control, why am I I could be perceived negatively by my leadership or by the customer, even though it's a product problem as opposed to, my role. But if the problem is not within my control, I'm not going to let that inhibit me from doing what I can to alleviate the situation. And now this is, very work focused, but same thing with life. I think a lot of it's expectation management, not only on expectations of the external. One thing that used to cause me a lot of stress and annoyance was people saying I'm going to be there at 1:00 and then not getting an update until 1:30, saying that they're not going to be there till 2:00. Like that irks me to my core because I think we were programmed growing up to be on time to things because like mom was stressed out about being on time. And then when we weren't showing up on time, it was like text mom and dad that we need to be there or that when we're going to be there. And so that was just like ingrained. Other people, not the case. And so over the past 6 to 12 months, I've really kind of focused, okay, this causes me a lot of unnecessary kind of torment. And it's all self-conjured because the other person isn't like, I'm going to show up an hour late and I'm not going to tell them and fuck them. It's shit's going on. It's not that important to them. And so my expectations become, all right, 1 o'clock is the time that we set. If I'm not going to expect this person to necessarily be there at 1 o'clock. And if I'm there at 1 o'clock, I have X, Y, and Z that I can do while I wait or in the meantime, or I'm going to call and double check that they're actually going to be there on time or I can show up later. So like what's in my control? One, I can set the expectation that is a little bit more flexible. Two, I can have a check-in, make sure that things are still on time and otherwise adjust. And so I think that little lesson of setting expectations on yourself, but also setting expectations for things that are out of your control and not expecting everything to be perfect all the time, helps me at least with my stresses.
I love that. I totally agree with what you said there. To answer your question directly, Coleman, there wasn't like a moment. I think for me, you can ask my parents, like they always make a joke that like, I mean, I'm almost like too unstressed. Like I'm like the last one out the door of the house a lot of times. And I'm actually historically pretty late to things. And my profession
Talking about AJ.
in the professional setting, I'm a lot more I am on time and I've gotten better socially, but while like I do still get stressed, like those things like that still happens. Like it's not like this is perfected by any means, of course. But I think recently what I've been like at least connecting this to in the work world is there's a difference between I think like pressure and stress. And I enjoy like a level of pressure on myself because I feel like I perform better under pressure.
100%.
Most people, or a lot of people, can like allow that pressure to become stress. And I think that what I usually lean on is a lot of what Hubert said, but just to add a little bit, like there's a level of, I think, confidence in like myself to be able to figure it out because I've done it before. And there's also a level of like trust that I have to have in other people. Like my job is very much I'm a quarterback now. Like I used to be the running back. I used to be the guy leading every conversation every time in all of my sales cycles I'm running. Now in enterprise, I have to like quarterback and I have to tell certain people to be in certain areas and delegate and like trust that they're going to do their jobs, right? And then at the end of the day, after that, like it's being skeptically optimistic. Like where are the holes? Like where are we maybe missing? Like where could this go wrong? And as long as I'm staying aware of those things, I'm optimistic of the result. And if the result is good, great. If it's not, we did our best, you know? And then taking it back to life, I know I sent you guys this quote yesterday because this reminded me, I listened to Meffert's podcast, which was awesome. I don't know how to say his name. Michael de Montaigne. He is French. But my life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened.
It's just so relatable to me. I'm a catastrophic thinker, AJ. I don't know if you might have came across some of these archetypes, people that have came by your sales calls, but I just automatically assume the worst possible thing is going to happen. And that's what I've been working on with my stress levels. So like, for example, let's just say a project at work is running a day late for myself. Me like a year ago would be thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to complete the project on time. Like that's going to go all the way down to the rabbit hole of I'm not going to complete the project on time. People are going to be upset with me. I'm going to be set back in my career moving forward. That would be like my mentality. And so now, present day, it's more of I have that under control. And what it sounds like for you guys is you're taking away the and kind of relating back to what Ryan was talking about on our last podcast, but you're taking away the emotional part of stress and you're making it just like an object. That's just part of your day to day. And that object isn't gonna affect the way you emotionally feel about the situation or yourself. And it can still make you feel emotions, but it's not gonna be the end of the world for you guys. And that's where I want to get with my stress levels. That's where I want to get when things come up unexpectedly, and not go straight down the rabbit hole of catastrophic thinking, the worst thing's going to happen, but more so get to the point where how can I just grasp this and control it?
What's cool is you can get there. Like that's something you can work on and you can improve. And like I said, still working on this and still trying to improve that. But what you keep saying is, well, what if? Like those are all hypotheticals. It hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that might happen. But if it happens, you worry about it then. You don't worry about it now. You know?
And majority of the time, it doesn't happen. Which is why your quote is so relatable. Which is
Exactly.
why when Ryan said, what percentage of the things do we worry about and stress about on the week-to-week basis, on the month-to-month basis, like how many of those things actually happen? And it's just true. You just work them up and build them up that they're going to happen in your head, that it seems like it's going to, and it causes you to feel a certain way. When in reality, most of the time, it doesn't. And that's something I need to work on. That's something I'm trying to work on. And you actually, AJ, you said these are things you can work on and that you're still working on them. What is that like working out for you? Is that therapy? Is that journaling? Is there a certain way you actually work on that?
Yeah, it's a mix of a lot of things. I think what you hit on, working out, therapy, journaling, I partake in all of that and try to like make that a consistent routine. I don't know. I don't ever like to settle for I think that I believe that we as humans, even if we think we're like really good at certain things, you can always improve in whatever that area is. Not saying that that's this area, but this could be one of the areas for me. I'm also spiritual, so I'm getting in touch with the man upstairs and doing things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always asking people for advice and having conversations like this. I have a life mentor that I talk to on a monthly basis that I talk to him about literally everything, and he's extremely successful, retired, like running his own business. So staying busy, keeping yourself involved in as many different outlets and perspectives and communities as possible, while never being okay with settling for the skills that you've been given or have improved thus far, is like a big belief and mentality of mine. And so those are all different ways that I'm kind of tapping into that.
I love
like,
the life coach thing. That's awesome.
You've got a growth mindset for sure. And I've picked up from being friends with you that you're almost always first to ask questions as opposed to explain your perspective. And so I think that carries what you just said, holds water for me, because you're always asking how I do something before you tell me about the way that you do it, which I think is you're always a sponge.
Yeah, people want to share. Like this is the trick. This is how you do it. This is what you need to know. But yeah, like your first reaction to ask questions and just learn more is something that I always try to do.
It sounds like the sales career has really started to go into the actual part of your life of the open-ended questions, running discovery. Haven't seen a friend in a few months.
My friends get mad at me sometimes, but yeah, it's true.
I used to get when I was learning common discovery and everything, I started to notice you doing it, and I was like, he's been doing this for years. What else?
I didn't even try. Like it's just something. It's just I don't know. It's just natural. I guess.
I love it. I think it's added that sales skill set, and I remember talking about it 3 years ago when you were like earlier on in your career, how much value it's brought to your ability to connect, to your relationships, to your ability to grow as a person, is just by being willing to listen and being willing to asking questions. It's something that I've soaked up just being around you, and it's added a tremendous amount of value to my relationships and to my own learning and to the relationship that I have with myself, the way that I show up in conversations, I feel like I've put less pressure on like needing to talk and like needing to have answers, but just being able to be like, yeah, like my role in this interaction is to just like learn more about their perspective. And I usually enjoy it more than you'd think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. 2 ears, one mouth.
2 years, one mouth.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that. Hubert, Jacob, let me ask you a question. I know you've been like doing more of this intentional relationship building through asking questions and getting to know your friends on a deeper level. What kind of impact has that had on your friendships in your life?
Good question. So I think this stems from early 2024, really finding myself in as hard of a place as I've been, and getting support from people around me in a way that was not advice. It was not, you'll be okay. It was not patting me on the back. The way that they helped me through my lows was creating space for me to feel heard, for me to not have an answer, to just like me being enough, even though I was at a hard point in my life. I felt so supported, and I didn't understand. I was surprised by the way in which I felt supported, and I felt so connected with the people who were helping me. And then the way that they were helping me was to dig in, to sit there when I was explaining something that I was going through, or I read like journal entries that I had written and been vulnerable with myself. But I only did that because these people made me feel comfortable enough to do so. From that point, I wanted to learn how to give that to other people. And I wanted to be someone who can create space for someone else, to relieve them of their thoughts, to relieve them of their stress, to make them feel not alone in their journey, whether they're single or in a relationship, doesn't like matter, but people feel lonely. And it really, because of how much value I got out of it, and because of the feelings that I had and the revere that I had towards these people, just to like shout out a few, like my mom is phenomenal at just empathizing. My friend Kevin is insane at asking a question when most people would give their perspective, or like, oh yeah, this happened to me one time, XYZ. And so I read a few books that gave me kind of like a framework, or at least a perspective on how to like interact with others in a way that is empathetic, in a way that creates space, in a way that is non-judgmental. And I made it like a focus, and I would like go into conversations with almost a goal of, what I've experienced does not matter. All I want to do is to make whatever they're going through be in front of us, to be in this space between us. And I would have this conversation at the gym with someone that I didn't know for a while, or I hadn't seen in a while, and he all of a sudden he dove into the troubles that he was having at work, how it was impacting his relationship. He had just had a kid, like all of these things, and all I did was just didn't talk about myself, but just continue to ask questions, try to make sure that I understood what he was saying. And like at the end of it, he like gave me a hug, and I hadn't seen this person in like 4 years. Like, it was so good to see you. I hope I run into you again. And I was like, that is like what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, that is like, I want people to feel seen and heard when they interact with me in a legitimate way. And I've had a couple people, this was just to, I guess, give myself a pat on the back, because I'm trying to be better about doing that as well. I think it's important that we're proud of ourselves. But I got this message from someone after a work conference like 3 weeks ago. Jacob, it was great to meet you last week. You're incredible at asking questions and making people feel heard. I'm excited to see where that takes you. Let me know if you're ever in town. Yeah. And I was just like, that is the nicest, like, I am fulfilled by that person feeling that way. And that person also created that space for me. And so that just felt like such a genuine interaction, someone that I interacted with for like a couple hours at a conference. So you asked like what type of impact has focusing on that been? I just feel like my daily interactions are more fulfilling. The connectedness that I have with my current friends or old friends the level at which we get is deeper. Drinking buddies have turned into support systems in a way. And I think that's special, powerful, and hard to find. And so I feel like it's kind of taking it on myself to create those relationships and to allow that other person to have that relationship too, because they're hard to find.
Love that. That's awesome, man. I got the goosebumps. You sharing all that stuff. And we felt that, man. Like our friendship with our friends and our group. Well, first of all, I think people respond really, really well to authenticity, which is so interesting because all people want from you is you, no one else. And if you can express that, then that's noticed and that's really appreciated. But yeah, it was funny going back to one of your questions earlier, Coleman. Like one of the hardest things about the transition from college to post grad was in college. Like I had this like weird thing where a lot of us did too, where like I wanted as many friends and as many connections, like loose connections as I possibly could for social status, just for maybe even after college, like whatever it may be. And I quickly realized after college that like I'm lucky that I have a really good group of friends from college that like I came away from college with, but there's opportunity to grow within that group and like time and energy that I didn't really spend too much diving too deep with these guys that I could have. Maybe spending more time trying to get to know like other people very loosely. And so one thing I've done post college is, all you need is a couple best friends. Let's get as close as I can with these people, and because that's who matters most in my life. And that's where like that shift from drinking buddies to support systems and those heart to hearts that we've had over the years, Jake and our friend group, and it goes a long way. It really does. It's authentic, and it's especially taken well when we're vulnerable, which is hard to do as adult men in today's era. But yeah, I love all those things, man. That's cool that that's had that impact on you. And yeah, I'm excited to see where that takes us.
Kind of adding to that, AJ, last thought here. I totally get what you mean. So you were trying to make as many connections. For me, I was trying to be somebody that I thought everybody wanted me to be in college. And I think, well, I know a lot of people do that to this day, but they try to be somebody that they really aren't necessarily. And so I was trying to be somebody for my set of friends here. I was trying to be somebody for my set of friends at work. I was trying to be somebody for my parents. I was trying to be somebody for my siblings, when in reality, like I had all these little snippets of who I was in each personality, you might say. But now I've shifted into I'm not going to be who I think other people want me to be. I'm now just myself, and I want to just express my authenticity, which has been really nice actually too with the podcast, because I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from past friends and current friends that I'm currently talking to right now, that they're just like, I really appreciate your on-air personality, essentially. Like you sound natural, you sound like yourself, and you bring energy. And for me, I just appreciate it because I struggled so long for trying to be somebody that I thought everybody wanted me to be, instead of just doing the things I want to do, be the person I want to be. And now I'm fully feeling in this self-development journey that I have control of that. And so I get what you mean when you say you're trying to do all these things and have all these connections, because I felt that.
Dude, and there's no better feeling in the world where like your family or some of your best friends that you love to death tell you, man, like I love you for exactly the person you are. And like you've been giving that person you, and you haven't been giving that person anybody else but you. And when that person can respond in that way, like there is no better feeling. Flip it around. Like let's pretend like you're being someone different, and that person's like, man, you're so fun to be around. I love to party with you. Like that's kind of hard to keep that person going, And
Yeah.
so I hope this encourages other people to do the same in their friendships and their relationships.
I think it's the same. It goes back to the same idea of one of the best feelings in the world is to be seen for who you are. I think it's Ralph Waldo Emerson who says the best feeling in the world is to feel understood. And so, like, when you're in the points of vulnerability and you're in your head and you're talking only to yourself with anxieties and pains and fears, and then to like let someone in and to feel accepted at that moment as well, like that you're okay despite your flaws, it's it's security, right?
Scary, very scary. Not easy to do. But I promise, and we had a couple of those moments together, Jacob. They're real friends. They're going to respond in a really, really positive way.
I've had moments where I've opened up, but also I've been, a good buddy explained to me that, a year and a half prior, they had gotten a DUI for having a couple beers at dinner and then driving back thinking nothing of it, but being at the limit because he rolled a stop sign and got pulled over and they checked and whatever. Now, this person didn't tell me for a year and a half, but had been dealing with fines and dealing with like the court system and having that on his conscience and like having to explain this to family and girlfriend and like just dealing with ultimate shame. And like I, as friend, felt that he had just been acting so off for a year and a half, and I was getting pissed off and annoyed with the way that he was responding or the way that he was approaching things that had changed all of a sudden. Like, what happened? And eventually, once I was told, like, he felt that I was gonna berate him and felt that I was gonna, not love him anymore and think that he was a failure and think that like all these negative things. And like when he told me that, like I just remember being like, oh dude, like you've been going through it all by yourself, and like you are making all these changes because of a failure, a mistake, and I saw them as like you changing in a negative way, but it's really you have all these stresses and these pressures and these things, and I wasn't able to fully empathize until I understood. And I actually saw him in a greater light than I had before him telling me, because now I'm aware of the issues and the struggles and the whatever. And so one, that specific instance taught me be wary of a couple beers at dinner. So thanks for like talking about your experience. Two is you don't know what's going on even in some of your closest friends' lives. And so I guarantee, rather than me just being frustrated with him not wanting to hang out on a Friday night, if I had asked at some point like what's going on, I feel like something's been off, that check-in might have altered a few months of being frustrated or having this other opinion.
It makes sense why you want to allow people to feel heard, your impact that you want to make. You want to let people feel heard. You want to give them space to feel heard because you went through it. And then after experiencing a year and a half of that situation, it sounds like you could have created that space for that person. And now it's shifted your mentality and your thoughts to where you want to be able to have those spaces created for your closest friends when they are going through shit. And
well, I want my people to feel like they can come to me without like and ask for help without fear of me judging them or me, getting on them for not being. It almost feels disrespectful to me when someone doesn't feel like they should ask me for help.
Totally.
mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying that. I agree. Like it's almost annoying at times, but I get it. Like it's the way that
right.
Like we're it's getting better too. Like the generations of like my dad and then his dad, and so like you can't ask for help. Like, you figure it out. Like while we still got to figure it the fuck out. Like when we're going through times of trials, like you don't need to do that alone. You're probably one of the only people that he like told all that stuff to, Jacob, as well. Like
I was the first person outside of his family who knew.
Oh, man,
and I'm like, dude, how have you?
I bet most of our friends are going through things that we just like don't know. And I want it to be a goal of mine where like that's not the case. I try to actually in the city sometimes just get like a bite to eat or like go hang out one-on-one with like some of my close friends because I want those conversations to naturally happen sometimes. And yeah, it's hard to do. Like be open and vulnerable. Like and to tie it back to Jamaica actually. One thing I realized, like we talk about this in Mastermind, Hubert, but we kind of forgot what it's like to like help people and just do favors for people and just like be nice to people. Like whether it's as small as picking someone up from the airport or as big as sitting down and letting your buddy like vent or cry to you. We get uncomfortable in the situations. It's not the social acceptable thing in America. And in Jamaica, they're like, I remember there was this one day we got in the car to go to, we were going jumping off some cliffs with one of my volunteer friends, and we went from one taxi to another taxi. The taxi system was insane, by the way. You get in this car, they don't believe in seatbelts. They just toss you in here. There's already 5 people in the back seat. They pull over and they're like, get in. And you're like sitting on people sometimes, and there's like 4 people in the front seat. The taxi drivers are driving insane, fast and furious. I thought I was going to die almost every time I'm in a taxi, but you hope, and you're optimistic about it. So we're going from one taxi to another, and we're in this other taxi, and my volunteer friend and I, she realizes she lost her phone. And we're in a car full of like 6 other people. And she's freaking out. She's like getting really, really anxious, which is rightfully so. Let us out of the car. Like we need to walk. We're going to walk back and find my phone, is what she shared. And we're like a mile away. And the driver's like, oh, man, like, no worries, man. Like, I'll drive us all back. And everyone in the car is like, yeah, man, we're good. We'll go back with you. We'll help you find your phone. In America, it's like, next place. Let's go. I'm on the move. I got to be there, you know?
Why are you in my Uber?
Yeah. They're like, appointment. It's like, whatever it is. The whole car turns around, comes back, lets us out of the car. And this local on the corner was just standing there. He's like, oh, what happened? Like, because he recognized us. Like, we were recognizable in this town. Oh, the phone was left in the last car. And he goes, oh, that's my friend Kevin. He's been driving taxi for 16 years. He'll be back on this route in the next 5 minutes. Like, okay. So we're waiting here. And sure enough, Kevin pulls up, parks. And he's like, oh, you guys' phone. Here it is. And has it for us. He could have taken that thing and ran, you know? And then the guy who like waited with us to tell us where Kevin was like, hey, I'll take you guys to where you guys are going. Like, I'll just drive you all. We're like, all right. We get in this guy's car and we like hitchhike with this random person to the waterfall that we're going to jump off of. And that's just an example. Like, everyone's out to help each other out. They're all like one love, like doing favors for each other, going out each other's ways to like turn around and help each other out, get to the right place, the right time. America could take a page out of that book for sure. So end up going out with that local too that I met the last night, which is a story for another time. But they're just so friendly and so like giving. Like they will like find opportunities to help people and do favors for people. What it feels like when we're here, we're all about earning. We're all about my time, my energy, me. And back to what you were saying earlier, Jacob, like if we can create an atmosphere where like we allow our friends to speak up when they are of need, and we sought out opportunities to help others. Think about what, going back to Meffert's line, ripple effects that can have in our community and our friends and our families, right? So that's kind of something that I'm trying to take away as well.
All right, well, I think that's a good transition to, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Ryan. If you had a billboard on the side of a busy highway just to have a message that, you know, thousands or millions of people would see throughout the year, what's your message? It could also be an ad for Gong if you're trying to, you know, meet quota.
Oh, man. I had a feeling you were going to ask me this, and I hadn't thought about an answer, so this is going to be off the cuff, but it changes a lot, man. Like, be kind has already been taken, right? Someone already did that?
Yeah, that's gone. You got to do something else.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit more creative than that.
All right. That's fair.
I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, why don't you go? Give me some time.
All right. If I had a billboard and I was paying money to advertise on this billboard, I would just put down "Earn Your Couch."
The original?
And then right underneath I'd have "Lean into your life, then lean into your couch."
So it would literally be an ad.
Essentially, yeah.
All right, for sure. There's that American self-promoting bullshit that you're talking about, Trap.
Yep. Real original.
What would be yours, Hubert?
I have 2, and I would have to A/B test it. But I think the first one would just be the question, what are you grateful for? Because I think if every day people are driving by this thing that just says, what are you grateful for? Whether or not they like it, subconsciously their brain starts to look for things that they're grateful for. Answering that question on a daily basis, I think, would have a huge ripple effect. The second thing, which I think is less potent, but would be just that mantra of perfection is not the expectation, but progress is. Because I think a lot of people put expectations on themselves and of situations that it's going to be this thing that goes off without a hitch, or I'm going to be successful every single time. If I told you that you're going to be successful with everything that you do every single day with your current experiences, you'd be like, there's no way. That's actually bullshit. So why would we expect the future to be any different? And so I think it's a reminder, to your point earlier, of attacking situations with, how do I learn from this? Even though I'm good at this, I can be better. Perfection is not a thing that's achieved. It's something that's like strives for. And so progress is always the goal. That's the expectation. I'm going to be better today. I might not be better today than I was yesterday because I have a day where I slack. But by the end of the week, I for sure will be better. And it's not like perfection is not a destination. So that's why I like the first one more. I think that one would have more of a positive effect, but I think it's a good reminder for people to not expect perfection. I think you'll be a lot happier if there's a little bit of room hedged in there for mishaps or rainy days or things that don't always go your way.
I like that. Very good. Are we doing this, by the way, or is this just like hypothetical? Because these are fine.
I know. I kind of want to add before you go, AJ.
Do you want me to share mine? Or can I skip mine?
I'm gonna share mine first, and then I want you to end it by sharing yours.
All right, deal.
Mine is gonna be based on our conversation today. Essentially, it's gonna be separate stress from your emotions. And I think in reality, that's my billboard, because I need to continuously remind myself that just because I'm feeling stressed doesn't mean I need to be in a negative mood or feel overwhelmed. But really separate what's stressing me out from how I'm feeling.
And honestly, if I could add that to that, Coleman, what I would encourage you to think about, don't even like overthink the stress portion. Like, just separate from the outcome, period. Like everything. Because it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
Don't overfixate on like the emotion of stress. Because like if you think about it, it's probably going to happen. Right? It's one of those things where don't do it. Oh, I did it. So just like completely try to remove yourself from the outcome, because whatever happens as long as you do your best.
I like that. Remove yourself from the outcome.
Yeah. There's a couple professionals at my company that are really good at that, that I've learned a lot from. But anywho, mine would be, I just kind of jotted this down, but slow down, right? That's all about focusing on the inputs and letting everything else follow and enjoy the process. Serve others, right? Give and don't just take. My LinkedIn bio is give more than you take. And the last one is just love more. It's all about love at the end of the day.
Slow down, serve others, love more.
That's it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That'd be solid.
How much does it cost? Let's do it. What are we talking here?
Well, dude, I think we should wrap it on that note. This was awesome, is how I describe it in one word. But I think it's cool. Like, we were friends in college, but I feel like our friendship really happened post-college. And it's been amazing to see from an outsider looking on at you, your transformation as an individual. You've always been a social, knows how to have fun, knows how to connect with people person. And I think it was something that I was jealous of in college, because I was like, damn, he's really good at just interacting with people and getting the party going and making people feel welcomed and everything. And then when I got to know you, I was like, oh, you literally just care about people aggressively. And that comes off in a way that you care about everyone that you meet. And I think that is a admirable trait. And it sounds like something that you did focus on at one point. But to what you were saying, I have felt that your investment in your best friends has become amplified over the past couple of years, and it's noticed in our conversations and level of vulnerability that we've shared and goal setting and growth mindset and all that has, like, you've been a positive light in my life. And so I'm glad that you've been able to come on, not as a friend, not only as a friend for me and Cole, but also as an expert in finding joy. And I think it's not that you've mastered it. Everyone's, practicing how they find joy, but you are an expert compared to many. And so I think it's a special trait in life.
That was very kind. Thank you, Jacob. Love you, man. Can't wait to give you a big old hug next weekend. But yeah, this is really cool, guys. This is an awesome podcast, and this is good stuff, boys. Love you guys.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Earn Your Couch. And you know what? If you made it this far, you're one of the true listeners. So Jacob and I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you for sticking around. If you haven't already, give us a follow at Earn Your Couch on Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. If you have a family member or maybe a loved one or even a friend that you think would benefit from the conversation that we had today, we would really appreciate it if you shared this podcast with them. More importantly, if you are earning your couch, feel free to tag us. Tag our Instagram account at Earn Your Couch. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.